forward to BrandCon Africa. It was put together to bring thought leaders, business gurus, and industry players to deliberate or have discussions on how to start your brand, how to keep your brand, and how to grow your brand. And in this era that we find ourselves in a pandemic, this is a very important conversation to have because everyone out here didn't expect it. We all didn't see it coming. And the pandemic has hit us drastically. But then most of us are picking up. Some of us have picked up. So we want to learn from them what they are doing differently. The theme for this year is celebrating versatility and innovation in the midst of a pandemic. So a few housekeeping rules. Please, let's put our phones on silent. We can turn it off if possible. If you want to use the washroom, you can step out, take the turn on your right, take the first turn on your right. The washroom is on your left. And also, please, let's keep our masks on and let's use the hand sanitizers we find on our tables very often because we'll be networking, we'll be seeing people here and there. And as humans as we are, as affectionate people as we are as Ghanaians, we like to hug, we like to handshake, even though we are not supposed to. So every now and then, please sanitize your hands. So, the Business and Financial Times has been in existence for over 2 decades, and we've been doing events over the last years that we found ourselves in the industry. BrandCon Africa is no different. We have some dignitaries amongst us, and then we have some of our thought leader writers in today's special publication. So if you want to have a copy of the Business and Financial Times, I think this is a better opportunity to tell you that quickly visit www.thebftonline.com. Scroll down, you see a subscribe button. Click on the button. We have our team on standby to reach out to you so that you can always receive the newspaper at 4:30 a.m. every morning. Also, we have some sponsors amongst us that I would like to acknowledge. So I'm going to mention all of them. Then we give them a resounding round of applause. So we are being sponsored by Zoom Lion, Ghana Free Zones Authority, Goel, and Hollard. Please, let's give them a round of applause. And for our media partners, we have Global Media, we have City FM, we have ETV Ghana, Happy FM, YFM, Asasi Radio, City TV, Echo House. Please, let's give them a round of applause too. I'd like to remind us that we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, so you can share with friends and family who can't be here with us. Our name on Facebook is BFT Ghana. On YouTube is Business and Financial Times. And on all our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we are BFT Ghana. On LinkedIn, we are Business and Financial Times. So I'm going to be running you through a few expectations for the program. And so this program is in 2 sessions. We are going to have a first plenary session, then we are going to have a second one. So on the first plenary session, we are going to be having a discussion on the topic, not mere rhetoric, how brands are getting results in the new normal. And then in our second plenary session, we are going to be talking about influencers rising, the art and science of personal branding in a digital world. Please, at this point, permit me to acknowledge our speakers or our panelists for today's event. So for the morning session, or for the first plenary session, we have Ekwa Owusu Nate, Regional MD, Ogilvy Africa. Please, let's give her a round of applause. Okay, she's at the back there. You're welcome, Ekwa. Then we have Sofa Kujoji. She is the Chief Corporate Communications Officer of Jospon Group of Companies. So I'm going to be mentioning everybody. Then we give them a resounding round of applause. We have Jesse Amo Ajipong. He's the Director Corporate Affairs, PR and Business Development at the Ghana Free Zones Authority. You're welcome, sir. We have Cynthia E. Ofori Jumfo. She is the Group Head, Marketing and Corporate Affairs at Hollard Ghana. A round of applause for her, please. All right, she's at the back there. You're welcome. Then our moderator is going to be Emma Wenani. She's from Global Media Alliance. Please, let's give her a round of applause. You're welcome, Emma. Then we are going to be having a presentation by Israel Lai, Executive Head, Influencer Africa. Please, let's give him a round of applause. Then for the second plenary session, we'll be having Phyllis Kwenye here. She is the founder, CEO, Connect World. Please give her a round of applause. Then Bernard Kelvin Clive, brand strategist, BKC Consulting. Then Rhoda N.Y. Odoy, she is the CEO, HypeNet Digital Ghana and Huge Studios Creative Agency. A round of applause for Rhoda, please. And finally, we have Ellie Daniel Wilson. He is the Group Head, Digital Media and Innovation at Global Media Alliance. A round of applause for him too. So now that we know what's going to be happening and all of that, we've taken you through a few of the things that are going to be happening. I think it's time for us to get a proper welcome, and this is going to be done by none other than the Chief Executive Officer of the Business and Financial Times, Dr. Godwin Akwe. Please give him a round of applause as he joins me here.
Thank you, Baba. A very good morning to all of us. It is my utmost pleasure and indeed an honor to welcome such a distinguished gathering to the introduction of a new BNFT brand conference. I would like to acknowledge the presence at this event of various stakeholders from corporate Ghana who have contributed immensely to the sustenance and growth of our economy over the years, and particularly over the last two. You are all warmly welcome. This is the first time we are meeting together in what promises to be a very eventful year. On this occasion of celebrating the art and science of branding, marketing, and communication, we would like to highlight the context in which we are having this conference. It has been a little over 2 decades, or 2 years, since whispers of the then novel coronavirus began making the rounds globally, and 23 months since it breached our shores. In that time, life as we knew it has been transformed in many ways, not one. From the hysteria that greeted the first period to the theories which characterized the rollout of vaccines, to everything within, there has been the need for clear, concise, and credible information. This has held true for governments, healthcare providers, but also business establishments. For brands that have successfully navigated the ever-evolving business landscape, a key driver of their success is the machinery that is frequently behind the curtain, often heard and yet rarely seen. Tasked to manage their brand's image, they are content to take a step back into the shadows while their brands shine bright. As the world has grappled with the disruption occasioned by this pandemic, the most robust brands are those that have been agile and innovative in their internal operations as well as their interactions with customers and other external stakeholders. From the brink of possible recessions, many brands have thrived and in the process posted some admirable numbers. These developments have, in no small part, been down to this innovative work on the part of the aforementioned machinery. under the banner of marketing, communication, brands, corporate affairs, or public relations departments. These in-house or external bodies have served as the focal point of communicating and promoting their brands in innovative ways. The result of their work is evident as state institutions, finance houses, mining firms, telcos, fintechs, agric, and the educational institutions and several economic actors have displayed remarkable resilience and growth. I trust you will not begrudge me when I say I believe they deserve a hearty round of applause. Thank you. BrandCon, at its very core, is a celebration of these marketing and communication professionals and an opportunity for them to tell their stories as we gather around the theme celebrating versatility and innovation in the midst of a pandemic. Let us examine for a moment some statistics around the subject. Data from a January 2022 survey by digital marketing intelligence outlet Smart Insights suggests that more than half of the world, that is 58.4%, now use social media. That translates to some 4.62 billion people globally, with 424 million new users coming online within the last 12 months. These, in addition to other studies which show the seismic shift in customer preference and demands for equality, accountability, as well as environmental, social, and governance, that's ESG interventions, highlight the need for sustained proactivity on the part of brands, big and small. The onus, then, is on their marketing, communications, and public affairs departments to have them prepared for the future. The question of preparedness, I believe, will be adequately addressed today. When the idea of this conference was first discussed some months ago, we could immediately see that it would be more than an additional feather in the hat of the ever-expanding catalog of agenda-setting events organized by the most reliable source of comprehensive business information on the continent, the Business and Financial Times. We could this becoming the standard bearer for the industry. We have been especially encouraged by the responses from our partners, many of whom are in here gathered, and we trust that together we will, during our deliberations, take stock of the past, evaluate the present, and prepare for the future of business interactions. I once again offer you a warm welcome and wish us all successful deliberations. I thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Godwin Akwe. Please let's give him another round of applause. So we are going to be having some goodwill messages from our sponsors, and I'll be starting with a rep from Zoom Lion. So please, if you're available, kindly join me up here to, okay, so I've been signaled to skip that part, so we're going to be doing that shortly, but not now. Please give me a second. All right, so we have another remarks from CIMG, Kobna Ekwama Ajekum. I hope he's available now so that we can take his remarks. Kobna Ekwama Ajekum. All right, then we are going to zoom straight to our keynote address, which is going to be done by Dr. Kobe Mensah. Dr. Kobe Mensah was once my lecturer, and I'm so proud to be standing here and to be hosting him. Please, let's give him a round of applause. He's an economist, and he is at the University of Ghana Business School. You're welcome.
Thank you, Baba. Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. I think this is the first time we're meeting, and apart from some of the trainings and the radio stations, this is my first event for the year, and thanks for bringing me. Thank you, Dr. Akwe. I'm grateful. Bernard just got to me to say we are doing this, and I said, well, something that we can do, so I'm grateful for the invitation. I actually prepared, as you would expect, a lecturer to do a presentation thinking there was going to be some slideshows, but unfortunately, I'll try and do with this one. Thank you. All right, so curtsies to everybody, and let me appreciate Jesse and Sophia, at least two of them that I know, and of course Cindy, and then the rest of the team. Thank you. All right, so this conversation is on brands and strategies in COVID. I think that it would be good for me to talk about a little what we know about companies and brands. And I'm sure I won't bore you with a little bit of explanation why brands are essential. We always say that marketing is the parent, brands are, or brand is the child, or the what they call the baby. And for me, I always say that when parents give birth to a child, two things happen. First, they give an identity to the child, but the child has to grow into what we call the image. So when it comes to managing brands, the company decides that through their marketing programs, they give an identity, and through the marketing programs that they advance towards the brand assumes an image. Now, when you want to do your brand assessment, you have to look at the image or the identity that you gave to the brand and the image that the brand has assumed, whether there's parity. If there's no parity, two things are happening. Your investment is not right, or your competitor is stronger than you. So your competitor is giving a different identity to your brand because of your lapses. You're not giving the right investment. So the image that you think the brand will grow into, in order that there could be parity between the identity that you fostered on, is not happening. So for example, you go to high school to visit your child, maybe your son or daughter. You give the person Kwesi, maybe Nyamiche, hoping that they will grow into the image of maybe your dad or maybe your mom that you cherish so much. Now, lack of the right training or a lot of influences on them by their friends, they will depart from that image. So suddenly something has gone wrong. So we must make sure that we're doing the right investment and we're fighting off competition in order that our brands, that is the identity we fostered on them, assume the right image for what we call congruence to happen. Thank you. Now, we have done some studies in the university, since COVID, somewhere the early part of 2020, I think COVID struck. In Ghana, just like everywhere else, we had a lockdown. Now, we all have lived the process, so we can actually understand or we can appreciate what happened at the time. Panic. And so, immediately the lockdown happened, we were all in panic mode. And we're saying that the market was actually underpinned by three things: fear, panic, and risk. Now, that actually characterized a lot of decision-making, buying decision-making of the consumers. How did the companies respond? Because you were not in normal times. And literature tells us that whenever we are in crisis period, companies must behave differently because consumers are behaving differently. They are hoarding. They're no longer responding to known brands. Why? Because it's a panic state. People are hoarding, so you want to grasp as much as you can because you don't know when the crisis or how long the crisis will last. So we have done some studies to understand the consumer's behavior at a time that we were told to lock down. So the consumer behavior was almost like this, and I'm sure a lot of you have actually lived through it. People were buying only the essentials. Most luxury items, we said people postponed their consumption. And they front-loaded essential consumption. So if you were actually a brand that was dealing with non-essentials, you should know that people had postponed that consumption, and so it would affect your stocks. Again, we realized that people were not necessarily going to buy what they know. People were not brand conscious. Why? Because we're on lockdown, crisis, fear, panic. And so if you were the strongest brand, of course, you were not going to experience the usual, oh, let me go to Osu to get what I actually want. Once you get the item in Adenta, it doesn't matter what the brand name is, you would buy. And this is what we were experiencing at the time. So essentially, consumers are already motivated by what is happening. So it's not going to be your usual promotion that is going to count because they already have the motivation already because of what is happening. Now, they hardly would have time and space for any marketing communication as a prelude to buying. And there's also self-imposed rationing of consumption. We all experienced it. If you used to eat 2 balls of kenke, during the lockdown, you're rationing yourself, self-imposed. Why? Because you don't know when the crisis would cease. So whatever you buy, you are self-censoring yourself, you're rationing, just to make sure that should the crisis extend, you will still have enough stock. So these are some of the behaviors that we were seeing at the time. What does that mean to marketing, to brands? It means that consumption has assumed time and space because of the uncertainty. And it means that the usual marketing activities that we see, advertising and other promotional activities, you have to think about your expenditure on them. And don't forget, it's about crisis, panic, risks. Time that people are in challenging in a moment. Are you going to tell them, oh, I'm the best, buy me? You're going to be seen as very insensitive. So competition suspense. Everybody moves into what we call co-optation period because we have to tag along each other to make sure that we can survive the crisis. So hardcore competition, hardcore advertisement were seized and replaced with PR. Most firms, I'm sure you would realize, that most of the marketing communications we were seeing at the time were PR related. Have you washed your hands? Have you used a sanitizer? Be mindful of your family. All those things were what we were seeing at the time. So our studies were actually looking at those things, and then we had to re-theorize. And I'm sure most of you within the room, because we're talking about brands, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the popular consumer decision-making model, those 5 stages that we talk about need identification, searching for alternatives, comparing them, and arriving at the decision to buy and all that. But we realized that there were some kind of changes in that particular order. So we had to theorize a new framework. So we had to shorten it because need identification was there because there was what? Panic, crisis. But were people actually searching for information so that they can compare brands? No. They were grabbing what was available. I remember when the president first spoke that we had two incidences, two issues. I was sitting at Adenta with one of my friends. Quickly, because I had just come from England, quickly we entered a pharmacy to grab the sanitizers. I think it was left to 6. I bought all of them. So that tells you no brand, but significantly, no thought about pricing. People also scale down their thoughts about pricing, especially those who had. Why? Because it's a panic state. And all these speak to marketers. What must you do in those instances? So we had to reframe the theory and reduce it to 4 stages. So we actually replaced information search and evaluation of alternatives, that is in the old model, with ownership. Because people were trying to own quickly as opposed to comparing alternatives. Again, the usual 4 Ps, as we know them, and marketers, brands, people, we love our 4 Ps. The usual 4 Ps, product, price, promotion, and place, distribution. You realize that we're no longer at the same level of importance, as I said. Product, yes. Distribution, yes. Promotion was changed slightly to PR. So if you take the entire promotion element, which we'll talk about, the promotion mix, the PR part assumed the most importance. Price was also kind of altered a little bit, and I'm sure most of you practitioners have observed it. So we say that we have to be aware of some of these instances. How do we do marketing in crisis times? And that's what we're trying to do, so that we can inform the city, the corporate, and said, be mindful of your marketing activities in crisis, because these changes are real, and we all went through them. Now, so we had to do some empirical studies to back the conceptuals. And we studied some few brands. Obviously, the FMCG comes to mind because they are the most dominant. But then also we looked at the financial sector, banking, for example, and see people's behavior. Now, we wanted to look at whether our thoughts were really replicated in the city. So we had to focus on brands and their activities. But we realized that the FMCGs, which are predominantly mass market, and I'm sure before the COVID, you wouldn't think that farm milk, for example, would be relational. Mass market, you see them in the street, you buy. But most of these brands adapted. Of course, with the advent of social media, it will be foolhardy for any company to not to take notice. But in the COVID period, we realized that firms have upscaled their activities on social media. So we're looking at Lipton, farm milk, Volta mineral water, Voltic, because we've seen them do some kind of scale up in the activities. And what we found was that there was a lot of engagement. And it was not your typical advertisement. It was more educational, more celebrating with people, the occasions. Because already there's risk, there's panic, there's fear. So people in their homes were trying to get the glimmer of excitement as possible. So obviously the Mom's Day or the Mother's Day, the Eid, you could see a lot of activities, within that period. And then we saw a lot of bundling as well, product bundling, that companies were trying to bundle product. Remember, price is downscaled. People do not have enough, or even if they have enough, they don't know how long the situation would last, so they want to cut back. So we saw a lot of product bundling that could actually meet how much people want to spend. And then, of course, the offering of omni-digital channels. So our case firms, we saw, were not aggressive on buy me, but were very much, responding to people's, fears, by toning down, trying to reassure people that it would be all over, etc. You wouldn't see the evidences that I have because there is no PowerPoint, but I'll read a little bit of it for you. So Lipton, for example, make time to stay connected with your family and friends this Eid. Lipton wishes you a happy Eid. Of course, it's a normal text that most companies would do during celebrations like that. But the intensity of those engagements during the crisis times or the lockdown was high, and people were actually responding to that. Fan Milk, we saw them talk about their school caravan, all right, healthy eating, promoting healthy eating, and saying that the school caravan is a demonstration of our mission to become part of the solution to malnutrition. And they were promoting most of these. Voltec, we saw them talk about the plastic buyback in the communities. And then again, we saw them talk about, Voltec again, the Ghana Green Project. Now, all these things are the things that they were engaging on, as opposed to your aggressive, buy me kind of position. And then, of course, we saw a lot of engagement. And that's what I said. It was surprising how FMCGs were now adopting a relational character. Because what we know in marketing is that fast-moving consumer goods are mass market. But we're seeing a sort of relationship creation where they would ask people to respond to certain issues, they would engage them, etc. It's not a full-blown relationship program, but at least it was different from what we know as the FMCGs, where you just meet them in the street, you buy, you go, that kind of thing. And Lipton, for example, says, Bob's father has 5 sons, Fefe, Fifi, Fofo, and Fufu. What's the name of the 5th son? And it drew a lot of engagement. People were having that conversation. So the case firms educated customers on product and dealing with product and or services issues. It was quite common to see people engaging on social media platforms in relation to questions about how to get their product or complaining about product that fell short of expectations. We saw promotion very much targeted towards distribution channels. Firms trying to engage consumers to learn about the new distribution channels. As we said, trying to get people to buy from social media channels, e-commerce sites, as opposed to the traditional channels where you would enter shop, because people can't enter shop. And for them to stay relevant, because they couldn't say, oh, let's shut down people can't visit shops. But they were now saying, okay, people can't visit shops, but we are very much shop-oriented. Why don't we try and push people onto the online? Let them call us, let them WhatsApp us, so we can send delivery. I never knew that there would be a time Farm Milk deliver product to people's homes. Who thought about that? Farm Milk, it's just Farm Milk, right? Now they started doing bundling, that when you pay 20 Ghana cedis, they will send it to your home. That's not the kind of marketing we knew for FMCGs. But this is happening. All right? So Farm Milk, during the COVID crisis, offered to deliver product directly to customers who messaged them. And they were doing these bundling. And then they say, Farm Milk delivers to your doorstep. Listen, Farm Milk now delivers to your doorstep, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. from the comfort and safety of your home. You can call or WhatsApp us on, and they give the number to place your order today. Full range of products available. Then they give their bundling Mother's Day promo, Super Yogo, Fun Ice, and Fun Max all together as a bundle for 50 Ghana cedis. That is a complete change from what we know about Farmer, for example, and many other FMCGs. Now, we also did about banking to check people's attitude, consumers' attitude. And I'll give you a highlight of that. Increase in use of mobile banking. Most consumers, which we actually surveyed, it's a small study, just about 432 consumers, bank consumers. Most of them have seen increase in use of mobile banking. Most of them have seen increase in use of mobile money, which I'm sure you're very much aware. And one of the giants who used to work in the industry, Jesse, I'm sure when Momo came in, they probably would have their reservations because of Ghana, the culture. But now everybody sees, less bank withdrawals and deposits, more favorable views of the use of digital technologies for banking purposes, more positive perceptions about the perceived utility of internet and mobile banking. And these were some of the reactions we're getting from consumers. And it actually cut across age groups and income levels. So what we're saying is that we've seen 3 studies that we've done during the COVID period. Dramatic change. One, from the consumer behavior and the actions of businesses. That tells me that most businesses that actually are performing or they withstood the pressures of the time were the ones that were adaptable to the dynamics of the market. And that means having the young people, because digital platforms are mostly for the young people, investing, doing the right investment, and making sure that you have that adaptability, agile kind of character to withstand crisis and take the right decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kobe Mensah. Please, another round of applause for Dr. Kobe Mensah. He touched on quite a lot, and I hope we've all penned down a thing or two that is going to help us scale up in our brands and our businesses. Before we move to the plenary session, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors. We have the Ghana Free Zones Authority, we have Zoom Lion, we have Goel, and then Hollard. Please, let's give them a round of applause. And to our media partners, thank you so much. Global Media Alliance. We have City FM, ETV Ghana, Happy FM, Asasi Radio, YFM, City TV, and Echo House. Please, let's give them a round of applause. So we are zooming straight to our first plenary session, which is on the topic, not mere rhetoric, how brands are getting results in the new normal. And this is going to be moderated by Emma Wenani from Global Media Alliance. Emma, if you're here, please join me up here. Ekwa Owusu-Nate is a panelist. Please join Emma up here too. She is the regional MD of Ogilvy Ghana, Ogilvy Africa, actually. Then Sofa Kujoji, Chief Corporate Communication Officer, Jospon Group of Companies. Please join us up here. Then Jesse Amon Ajapong, Director Corporate Affairs, PR and Business Development, Ghana Free Zones Authority. Please give him a round of applause. We have Cynthia E. Ofori Jumfo, Group Head Marketing and Corporate Affairs, Hollard Ghana. Please give her a round of applause. And then we have some panelists who are not going to be joining us up here, but then he's going to be joining us in the crowd, and then he's going to be answering questions. He's going to be joining in the discussion. So Abdullah Yusuf Mahmoud, Head of Strategy, Echo House Ghana Limited. Abdullah, thank you so much. Sorry I missed you the first time. All right, Emma, over to you.
Thank you so much, Baba. Are we having Dr. Kobe joining us? Dr. Kobe Mensah. Yes. So Dr. Kobe Mensah will also join our panel. Thank you, Baba. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see all of you, and it's good to see my panelists as well. Like Baba mentioned, our topic today is not mere rhetoric, which means we're talking about the practicalities of dealing with a pandemic. And we have quite a great panel from different facets of the industry. So I'm really, really looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about how they handle the pandemic in the industry. So let me start with Cynthia. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and then if you were to describe the last 2 years without using the word pandemic, pandemonium, new normal, sanitizer, which word would you use and why? Can we get some more microphones?
Thanks, Emma. I see that you made it hard, because I would have said pandemonium. So, for me, it will be insightful. It's been insightful because we've learned more about ourselves. We've had new perspectives about what we can do, how far we can push ourselves, and how we react with pressure. About our customers and our stakeholders, we've also come to an understanding of their needs and their expectations in difficult times. And with those insights, we've been able to sit back, understand, develop products and services, or even change our ways of interacting with our stakeholders. And I think that in the last 2 years, to some degree, we've been very successful, but we rest not on our laurels, so it's an ongoing process.
Thank you, Cynthia. That's really great. I think when we concentrate on focusing on the pandemic, we miss quite a lot of things that we can be able to get. So I do love your word, insightful. Let me go to Equia. There was insights, there were so many changings, there was working from home, so many online meetings. How did Ogilvy adjust to this in the industry? What would you say some of the things that affected you, and how did you handle them?
I think the main thing we did was to kind of reprioritize things as a business. And that meant a certain level of agility and just changing the way we worked. So I think most businesses would have gone straight to working digitally, right? So that immediate transformation to use Teams or Zoom or one of those platforms so that you could still keep in touch with our customers was a very big thing. I think the second piece around agility was just being able to make sure that the speed to market and just keep a certain level of momentum, because immediately you have a pandemic like we had, all budgets were cut, clients were not sure what they were going to be doing next. A lot of brands in solidarity also began to do like a halt on social media because they felt bad to be selling things during the pandemic, right? So how do you then still get things to your customers? And I remember some of our clients beginning to go straight into e-commerce and all of those things. So it's just that agility and just a complete growth mindset and making sure that we were purpose ready to support our clients.
Thank you, Equia. Just to remind the audience that we will have a session for questions, so feel free to get your questions ready, both who are in the room and also online. Let me go to Jesse, the public sector. A lot of us maybe are in the corporate world, but when it comes to the public sector, what do you think has been the role of technology and digitization in sustaining your organization through the pandemic?
Well, first of all, let me just take a step back a little. Because we operate in an environment which was largely B2B or B2G. And therefore, the impact of the pandemic on institutions like ours would be different from institutions that Doc had alluded to. like the fan mills of this world. Now, the free zones, as an example, also plays a regulatory role in supervising about 180 institutions whose primary job is to export out of Ghana. Now, because those institutions are focused on export, they are part of what you might call the global value chain. So let's work from the global value chain down. So the global value chain says, if I produce within X, I can move to Y and move to Z. Now, once the chain was cut, it meant that the supply chain or the value chain was cut. It meant that production couldn't happen. It meant that jobs came to a halt. And it meant that Ghana as an institute, Ghana as a country could no longer be able to export. And therefore, this affected many businesses within the free zone space purely because the global value chain was not moving. So even before we talk about the role of technology in helping us fix the problem, the fact that we could no longer move volumes from Ghana to the rest of the world became a problem. In an article that I had written, I had indicated that we were currently doing about, on average, about $1.5 billion per year out of the country. Now, once you were no longer doing that, it meant that we were stifled. Now, because the global value chain had been shut, the only thing you could do during that period was to reassure customers of processes, keeping customers informed of happenings. What are the new trends? Is Europe shut? Is Asia shut? Is Africa shut? Are there restrictions that are being taken off in these new markets? Is it time for you to go into a production phase? So our job basically during the period would have been limited primarily to informing our B2B relationships of changing global trends. Of course, like many businesses, technology is important. Therefore, email solutions, Facebook communication, webinars and seminars online became pervasive. But in terms of the actual impact of COVID on our businesses, once the global value chain shut, anybody who had an export orientation was shut, and that was the impact. And therefore, technology could only help us in informing people of what were the new trends happening globally and which markets you could start producing for, depending on the easing of the restrictions.
Let me just follow up with that, because yours was actually, if it's shut, nothing can happen. Business cannot move. So how are you able to keep, let me call them clients, not panicky? How are you able to let them know that even though we find ourselves in this situation, we are doing this and we'll make things happen? How did you do that?
So let's again separate it. And I would always say that dealing with a consumer and trying to walk a consumer on an empathy journey is different from walking a business on an empathy journey. Now, even as an institution, many of us were more informed also. And the good thing is that if you're working with a business like Blue Skies, the structure is also very informed on global trends. And that structure is much more better informed than maybe the guy who's buying fan milk in Kotobabi. So empathetic marketing or reassuring consumers within a value chain is more difficult than reassuring enterprises within a value chain. So whilst governments, and I remember His Excellency the President reaching out with, if you remember, the weekly addresses, though the essence of that was to ensure that the country was being carried on a journey. So ours was a little bit different. It was more direct. It was more information sharing, much more than empathetic marketing. But I'm sure at some point in time we'll get into the conversation of that.
Thank you, Jesse. Let me go to you, Sophia. Using Jesse's analogy of empathetic marketing, basically putting yourself in the shoes of your customers, how important is customer satisfaction or customer-centric service, especially in the period of the pandemic? How important was it for Jospon?
Thank you very much. I would say that for the Jospon Group, it wasn't just a matter of being customer-centric. It was a matter of putting the customer at the heart of everything that you do. Because this is a period where people were down in their spirits, people were scared, people didn't know what to do. Now, our biggest operations is in waste management. So what we did at the time was to reassure people and to let Ghana know that we want to make Ghana safe again. So it helped us to reinvent ourselves. What can we do to make life better and easier for every other person on the street to do their work? Wherever you find yourself, private sector, public sector, wherever, what do we do to make you feel comfortable that I can step out onto the street again and I still feel safe? And that is where the executive chairman of the Jospon Group of Companies, Dr. Joseph Sianwe Japan, came up with the idea of beefing up our fumigation, disinfection, disinfestation exercises. We brought in more because we were not just looking at what can we do for government, because most of our jobs, we do a lot of PPP. But this time round, because we put the customer at the heart of it, we brought in more equipment, more personnel. So we go from home to home, those who cared, those who really wanted it, went from home to see how we can serve you. Sometimes you did not even have to call us. We did a lot of corporate social responsibility activities to touch the hearts of people, to touch the people we're working for, so that people will know that, look, it's not just about, this is no longer business as usual. This is not just about profits, but it's about making things easy and better for all of us to go back to work, for all of us to be able to do what we do best. So for us at the Jospon Group of Companies, it helped us to, let me use an overused word, reinvent ourselves. It was very transformative, and it helped us to touch people beyond what they know us for. Because people would expect that, oh, they're cleaning the streets. There's one of our companies, Amaris, which is into ports and terminals. Somehow, all of a sudden, came up with sanitizers in collaboration with another company. And let me say that the Jospon Group is made up of over 45 companies. So some of the companies came up with different things, came up with sanitizers. And whatever we were doing, it wasn't just for the public, but we looked inward as well, because we wanted to make sure that the internal customer, which is the employee, was also well taken care of. And so for us, it wasn't just the rhetoric of, oh, we are customer-centric people, but we put the customer at the heart of our operations and made sure that whatever we did, we were looking at the safety of our people and the people we are serving.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I like that. I like that you saw an opportunity and you are innovative as well. So it takes us back to celebrating versatility. You are versatile, you are flexible, you are ready to meet the needs. And at that point, you realize that some of your companies can do X, Y, Z to meet some of the needs. Thank you so much. Dr. Kobe, one of the most affected institutions was, let's say, learning, educational sector. Schools were closed, children were home, parents are working from home, they're trying to teach their children. But speaking from the University of Ghana perspective, what are some of the effects from both the students and the lecturers during the pandemic period that you had to deal with?
Excellent, thank you. Okay, first of all, let me acknowledge my is it the Executive Secretary, Kwabena Ajekum. Kwabena, welcome. Thank you. All right. Yes. Firstly, let me disclose that I don't speak for the university. It's very important. But yeah, obviously I'm part of it, so I can talk about what we did. I think we were one of the first institutions that actually went lockdown before the country went lockdown. And let me say that I give a lot of applaud to the university management. They were very quick, very effective, and very organized. Why do I say that? Now, we had an incident on campus that led to lockdown, but the university quickly took a decision to upscale our capacity because we didn't know how long it's going to last. First, they worked with some telcos in order that they can give both faculty and students data. Immediately, they realized that no, school still must go on, but differently. So the idea that we're going to have online classes meant that some logistics had to actually go out. So the university quickly went into collaboration with telcos, which I think I must recommend the telcos because they responded very well. They gave, data to both faculty and students. But there was one crucial thing as well. The availability of the facilities. For example, you need a laptop or you need a smartphone, in order to enjoy the class. So having the data alone wouldn't make it. So the university went ahead to institute, a laptop program where students can actually subscribe. They can come in and get a laptop, those who didn't have, which I know my own unit, the business school, had that, laptop program as well. Now, we also realized that those who are actually from far, who do not have the luxury of Accra, Takoradi, Kumasi, may not have internet connection. So at some point, the university took a decision to say, okay, for those who can actually come to the university premises, they could make available, the facilities for them. Obviously, it was about making sure that there's enough, spaces that people are not crowded. The early beginnings were all at home. But when things started easing down and we could move, some of the accommodation facilities were made available for those who do not have internet connectivity, because it was a concern that quite a lot of people are outside these places that they can access internet. And so that was made available. But then I think the key is about the swiftness of the decisions that were taken. That was key. That actually encouraged, the teaching and learning. And I think that especially for the master student, it's been really helpful. Now, as we tell you, most of them don't want to even come back to physical class. So I think these are some of the measures that we took. And I think it has given us a perspective of education. Possibly having a dualized system where you're going to have, on campus and off campus kind of access to education. Thank you.
Thanks. Let me just follow up on that, Dr. Kobe. Mental health. Mm-hmm. During isolation, we saw studies that mental health was an issue because people had to be by themselves. They were not having any human interaction. There was more day drinking because people are working from home. There was no work-life balance because you can be able to have a Zoom meeting at 9 p.m. Mm-hmm. But I want to zero it into the university. Were there any structures that University of Ghana Business School put in place to handle some of these effects on mental health, if any?
Yeah, the bigger university has a counseling unit. And I'm very much a social media person. I live online. I always say that I live online. So I've seen quite a lot of activities by the counseling unit, especially online, sort of encouraging students to get in touch with them and to make sure that, they could, and not only get in touch with them, but they give out some tidbits about how to manage the pressures, etc. So they really scaled up, the interaction and then access to faculty, access to, systems. Most of my colleagues do supervisions, etc., by distance anyway. The UGBS, for example, if I'm not exaggerating, has almost about 70% of its faculty below the ages of 50. So you can imagine the level of, modern kind of approach to doing things. And the university, the bigger university itself, has that particular kind of posture. So, young students have been encouraged, throughout the period, and be supported by the counseling unit.
That's fantastic. I don't know if any of my panelists want to speak about how the organizations handled mental health issues, if any.
So I work in the creative industry, and a big part of creating is collaboration, right? And so you have a bunch of 70 kids who literally come into the office and it's all fun and games and just interacting, and that's fuel for them. That's what they thrive on. And a lot of them were now stuck at home, like you said, unable to have those kinds of social interactions and talking about the next movie that's come out or, just the social interactions that they've thrived on. And what we as an organization did was we partnered our insurance service provider, right? So a big thing was having the mental health talks. And then we did a mental health helpline. And across the continent, you find that we are not very open to mental health conversations. So there's a bit of a reluctance to say, put up your hand and say, I actually need some help. And it did take quite a bit of encouraging. But you'd find every now and again someone popping up and saying, you know what, I'm really struggling by myself. And those interactions on the helpline began to help them, right? So it's just a support system. It's just someone saying, you know what, you're not alone in this. Everyone else is feeling that way. So it's just that partnership with our insurance partner. It's also giving them access and letting them understand. And then there were a lot of talks, right? So we would have, every quarter, they would find someone come and give a talk to the teams. And we did it as a continent, not just as a Ghana agency. So what that did was suddenly, if someone said, oh, you know what, I felt this way, right? And in some of the markets, the guys are a bit more prone to struggling with mental health. So for example, if you take some of the East African countries and so on, some markets are a bit more prone to those challenges than others. And so then there was an added layer of someone coming into the office. Sometimes there's a feeling like, oh, if you see me go through that door, it means there's something wrong with me, right? But just that education and constant conversation made people understand that it's actually okay not to be okay, right? So that's what we did at Ogilvy as a way of supporting our people through these struggles.
I guess at our end, what we did was to give constant updates on what's happening. And we also have a health facility or health agency within the group. So the doctors will give us short videos on what's happening, what you can do, relax and all that. So we shared that across the group. And we came up with trivias. Once in a while, you want people to take their minds off the struggles. Trivias. I mean, I remember recently one of them sent me a message. I was like, Madam, what's happening to the trivias? Are we not going to have it again? It created a bit of fun. So it helped to relax people. And we made it, even before we went on lockdown, insisted that anybody who had a situation which made them more prone to the situation should work from home. So pregnant women, people with respiratory problems and other related issues were made to work from home. Somehow it helped to relax people a bit, and once in a while there is a talk. So that's how we dealt with it, yeah.
Thank you. Cynthia, you wanted to say something?
Yes. Speaking on mental health, at Hollard, we took a very structured approach to it. Apart from the fact that we have a very stringent internal comms calendar where we do a lot of activities. Every month, we actually have themed campaigns internally. We went beyond the webinars. We had mental health professionals come in and speak to our staff, who we fondly call Hollardites. We went beyond the webinars. We went beyond the tips. We did a lot of tips. We pushed out a lot of information about taking care of yourself, about, engaging and collaborating, considering the fact that also for an insurance business, a lot of people had not even had that experience of working from home. COVID required a lot of business changes. I mean, we moved from desktop to laptops, and typically for creatives, working with a laptop is a normal experience. But for certain businesses, you come to work, you show up at work, you have a desktop, you do your job, and then you leave. So all of these changes were a lot, beyond just even the fact that, you have to be comfortable with working from home and being accountable to yourself. There's also the issue of even the tools that you work with have changed. And, with all of our internal engagement activities, the structures that we put in place was also making available mental health professionals for our staff to call in and speak to them. So if you're interested, if you just need someone to talk to, here's the person to call. So although we had those discussions, we had the consistent information flowing out there, we gave them actual resources. Then the next level was that team leaders and EXCO were required to check in with their team members. And I love that Ikea talked about the buddy system that was used for the creatives. For us, it was more or less, how many team members do you have? Have you spoken to each of them today? And we didn't fully work from home. Even now, we are still working from home, but even at the height of the pandemic, given the nature of our business, we still had a core set of people who had to work from the office. And you might think that they will be fine, but actually it's even worse for them because they would feel like we are the ones coming to work whilst everyone is at home. So team leaders, EXCO were required to check in, speak to each of their team members, find out how they are coping, make adjustments as necessary. So, it brings back that word agility, being agile, making changes, making adjustments as and when it was required, acknowledging the fact that we did not necessarily know exactly what we were doing, to some extent. We were just feeling our way through, but being conscious of the fact that it's a human institution. And, whatever we do, at the end of the day, there are people that we work with.
Thank you, Cynthia. And I think for all of us in the room here and even those watching online, I think the idea is about being intentional about what we're doing because we're working with human beings. All of us are used to, like Equia said, especially we find ourselves in the same industry. We thrive on brainstorms, collaborating, let's discuss this. And during lunchtime, you'll be cracking a joke. It keeps you going. But now you find yourself in a place where you're alone, you're constantly in meetings, you're trying to meet a deadline, you have to think, and nobody's caring about your mental health. I think it's time we start thinking about such things because mental health is not just an issue that we can pray about and it will go away. We have to put in structures as organizations to ensure they're working. So this is to you, Jesse and Sophia, if any of them can answer. When it came to adjustments in the work culture, because, all of us were going through this for the first time, what were some of the adjustments that you put in place to ensure that your staff, your employees, were still ready to go on with work even during this era?
Interesting. So, with your permission, I'd like to go back a little bit. So, instead of talking about, from my perspective, instead of talking about mental health, the flip side of the mental health is me trying to take advantage of a situation to build brand love and brand loyalty. Because the examples you're giving are the things that goes outside what your functional delivery is. And they are brands going beyond the normal to create an environment to help people relax more and to do more. And those things are the things that endears brands, the brand love, and get it going. I have a classical example. Then I'll come to your question. Okay. So when I worked in Tigo, right, we had organized the bottom of the pyramid research in a village close to Woolly Falls. It was the first time that I'd been there. And we were asking questions as to what would be the best price point that would allow you to pay for your telecom service. The only network in that village was Vodafone. Only network. So we had two questions to ask before we finished. What network is available here? They said Vodafone. Does it work? Yes. Is it good? Yes. Second question, what network do you love? Now, you would assume that if what you have works efficiently, you would say it's Vodafone. Good. But the cohort was unanimous in their answer by saying that the network they love is MTN. They have no MTN in the village, but they love MTN. Functionally, Vodafone satisfies their communication needs. So the question is, why do you love MTN? One, MTN sponsored our festivals. Festivals brings us together. Two, MTN does CSR activities. CSR empowers the people. And there was a third one, which I may have forgotten. Yes, MTN sponsors music on TV3. Which entertains us and brings us together as a family. So sometimes in endearing people to follow a brand path or to build the attributes that connects people, you go beyond the functional stuff. And therefore, I love the things they're saying in terms of the environments they've created, because everything else says that, beyond the functional delivery or beyond coming to work and helping to make Ghana clean, we are creating an environment that makes you, the employee, love working at Zoom Lion. So for me, it's important for brands to also understand that the employee is a consumer as much as the person you are trying to reach out there. And therefore, how do you use the attributes Cynthia and the rest of the people have pointed to in building the love? That's the first one. Second one is that, how have we driven the change within our institution? I think like many of my colleagues have said, running shifts became like an order of the day. Working remotely became an order of the day. Today, I can tell you that maybe within the past 2 weeks, I may have had over 7, 8 Zoom-related calls. Meetings with World Banks are on Zoom. Teams, GIZ is on Zooms and Teams. Decisions are being made with ease and flexibility. Now somebody says, can we have a meeting next week? And you're not thinking about traffic per se. Can we consider Zoom? The answer is yes, because what you're looking for is a decision point, not the handshake. So for me, there's been a lot of let's work internally, connect, and still take decisions without having to travel in traffic for 3 hours or 4 hours. Maybe before my time working within the state institutions, there were a lot of travels that happened. You need to go to maybe Dublin, or you need to go to London for like a 1-hour meeting. You fly for 6 hours for a 1-hour meeting. Today, you can do that in just 45 minutes. So technology has changed the way we go. So this is how I would answer your questions, and thank you.
All right, yes, so thank you very much. That's basically what happened. I mean, everybody had to find a way of changing the way you do things. And if you work with teams like I do, where we still had to send our people on the street to sweep, send our people to go and fumigate, disinfect. We also had a back-end team that was working. So some of us, we ran a shift system. Yes, we did a lot of Zoom meetings. But you know, some of these things, you have to get it from the top. That appreciation will have to come from the top. And once the top appreciates it, it makes it easier to work from the grounds. So once management caught the vision and realized that, look, the way things are going, we have to do something. We have what we call our annual leadership conference. So our annual leadership conference, the first thing we said was that, look, let's look at digital transformation. Thankfully, we have an ICT group within the group. How can we help each other? And at the end of the day, it wasn't a matter of I have seen her, she has seen me. It's about how productive am I? Am I able to deliver despite the circumstances around me? And so people were equipped to work from home, and you were given targets, parameters, stuff that you work with, so that at the end of the day, it's not like, oh, we are home, let's relax. I'm working from home today, so it's fun. No, people knew exactly what they were supposed to do. And this has helped a lot. And one thing that I would say really worked for us also, for the communications department, we realized that, look, it's not going to be just the emails, because you serve people the opportunity to work from home, give them the email access and all, but others might not be able to do that. So we did a lot of videos, a lot of, voiceovers and stuff like that, so that people can really hear and see what is going on. Because if you manage a team of, so core staff is about 3,000, and you have operatives close to 50,000, it's quite challenging how to get to everybody. We also came up with what we call the Just One TV, Genero TV, where we had events, projects that we had people seated like this, and we beamed it like a TV station, but we used the Zoom and other such facilities for our people, and everybody could join in from wherever they were, those who had access, and it was quite fun. So it was quite transformational for us, and we are excited because, one, it has cut down a lot of costs. In organizing some of these leadership conferences. We didn't allow it to stop us from organizing our leadership conference. We didn't allow it to stop us from having our 1-week Thanksgiving service every year that we do, but we took it to the next level and realized that it's really reaching out more, and it's cutting down costs for us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Equia, you find yourself in an agency situation where you're not only managing the internal, but you're also managing your relationship with clients. What would you say were some of the structures that Ogilvy put together in ensuring that even as you're working with the clients, the productivity is not compromised?
So I'll borrow from Jesse and take you back.
Um, when I think about our clients, what did they need at the time? And they needed partners, right? So they needed people who understood what they were going through, what they were struggling with, and where they needed to be. So the first thing I would say was, we also needed to recalibrate as a business, right? We can't continue to do creative and just artwork and TV and radio and production stuff, right? So the first thing was, we've always had a consultancy practice. And that consultancy practice has always been around, obviously, business goals. It's sort of been about, analytical rigor and being able to kind of take data and make sense out of the data. It's also really been about how frameworks, right? So you know what consultants do. But the big part of being a consultancy in an agency is you are nestled in a really, really creative environment. So suddenly, the way you think about things is completely different. So yes, it's about the bottom line, but it's also about getting to some of these things very quickly. So one of the things we did for a lot of our clients was actually activating our consultancy practice and focus on a lot of strategy. Because remember, a lot of our clients had also let people go. So some of the capabilities that they would ordinarily have had in-house did not necessarily exist anymore. So providing that support system for them from a strategic perspective was actually a significantly big deal for a lot of the clients, right? So that's one thing. The second thing was, as you all know, suddenly social media became the order of the day. And not to sound opportunistic, but then we said, how do we create a social delivery engine that can integrate both content, performance marketing, and just real-time insights, right? So what's happening in the world, and put all of that together as a product and sell it to our to our clients, right? So we created something called Feed. Now, what Feed did was, it made, and these are people you put in the client's business, right? So they don't necessarily work for us, but they use the tech stack from our business. And that was really incredible for a lot of clients, because suddenly they're able to do something that they didn't have the capability to do. We were bringing that capability, that knowledge, that insight, but as a product, not as just as a service, right? And those were two things that we did very differently. Now, just thinking about it, it's about how we changed our business, how we took parts of our business and focused on the things that mattered to our clients. And I think that was really, really useful to us. I'll talk a bit about influencer, but that's also, we realized influencer marketing was a big deal. How do you package that? How do you put it together? Create a platform, allow people to access it, pick them. So there's a bit of a science towards the things that you're doing. The regular things will be just project management. So putting in a PMO system, where you're not just using emails, you're using things like Trello. I'm sure a lot of people know what Trello is. So it makes it very easy to kind of go online, look at what the work is done, real-time working together. So those were the things that we did as a business. Has it been easy? The answer is no. Because as human beings, we always don't want to learn new things, right? Because it requires, there's a huge learning curve for a lot of these things. But I think that the clients who come along with us have come along with us. Some of them we still treat in the same old way because they're not willing to create those shifts. But it's opened our eyes and our people's eyes to a whole new world. So we've kind of just been catapulted into the future. And that's really incredible to see as a business. Yeah. Sorry for the blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no problem, Ikuya. Thank you. Doc, I want to ask you the same question, but let me put it in the perspective of the university in terms of, you mentioned that even now, there's some students who want to continue with the online classes. So what other innovations or structures have you put in place that even post the pandemic you'd see going on? What are some of the structures in place?
Okay. Thank you. Two facts that I know. The university has conducted survey among faculty to ask us about going forward, how we want the teaching and learning to be like. So faculty has given their perspective. So I'm sure we're going to have some kind of policy, to tell us going forward how the university is going to actually structure itself. Secondly, I know for a fact that in my school, we have already started setting up which I know for a fact also, that is one of the key targets of the VC, because she's mentioned it at the engagement level, where we are setting up systems to aid hybrid, lecture. So you could have myself teaching in class with people sitting, and those who are not able to come to class or who are elsewhere also participating. And these are kind of structures that I know the university is actually putting in place. The current structure, which we have actually pursued for almost 2 years, which is the distant, by Zoom, is temporary, obviously, as a result of, COVID. Along the line, we had a double track, where the students were divided into two. So some came and then finished and went, and the other batch came. I think it was almost like 6 weeks kind of structure, just to make sure that we can, accommodate everybody to finish the semester without crowding. Currently, all of us are on campus, but for the teaching, especially for a master's student, it's hybrid. So you come in 2 weeks physically in class, and then, of course, another 2 weeks online, trying to navigate ourselves to maybe a normalized. And when I say normalized, it doesn't mean we're going to go back to old days. It's likely to be hybrid. Of course, the policy hadn't actually come out yet, but I know that these are the steps that we had taken, had been taken to ensure that we could have a very, how do I put it, a very reflective or a very flexible, academic system that could actually take into consideration some of these critical times. So I can foresee a lot of innovation, going forward. But one thing is critical, maybe I must point out. Sometimes we have a feeling that innovation is for young people. But I can tell you, most of my professors, some of them ages of 60, those who are even on contract, 60 plus, were the ones who were actually looking for Cisco's, the softwares. So when we're discussing Zoom, you have a professor who is just about 60 plus tell you, oh, have you used WebEx? Then everybody go, Prof, what is WebEx? Oh, you don't know. And that tells you the preparedness of everyone in that instances to ensure that they can go about their duties with no hitch, although we're in a very critical situation. Thank you.
So I'm just about to take some questions from the crowd, but let me ask Cynthia. How would you say, in your opinion, should insurance companies position themselves? We are in a health uncertainty, but how should they position themselves for the future?
So here's the thing. The way people interact with companies has changed. So whether you like it or not, that digitization word has come to stay. In the last 2 years, we've leapfrogged. Africa, typically in the past, people will not be very comfortable with you doing business via WhatsApp. We are in a world where that is the norm. I'm sure you know that for us, Hollard, we have ventured into areas that, most people wouldn't have ventured in the beginning. WhatsApp being one, for instance. And, COVID changed how we approached our distribution methods. It changed how we thought about sales. And it really gave us a new perspective on how our customers wanted on-demand services. And, someone would say insurance. Insurance would typically be considered a conservative type of product. If you think about insurance in itself, in the past 10 years, you would imagine people in suits sitting in an office. When you see the salespeople, they come in with very shiny shoes. They are very slick. And yes, some of that hasn't changed. But now what's happening in the industry, and I'm very excited to see, is that we are more competitive. Now you have buy-in from the top about what is necessary and what needs to be done in order to satisfy our customers. Our customers have gotten used to accessing services and products as and when they like it. And we can't sit back and say, oh, this is how we do things. After all, insurance is insurance. And we are struggling with a challenge where the coverage, the percentage of people who are covered by insurance is less than 30%. If we talk about contribution to GDP, which is penetration rate, it's an abysmal 1%. So obviously, the opportunities are there. And with COVID, we have suddenly realized that the opportunities are there if only you would look beyond your normal. You will look beyond what is typically expected. So for us, the nature of our business is we are purpose-led. We actually do care about, ensuring that our customers win, ensuring our partners win, and we win as well. So because of that, we have ventured into partnerships that have enabled us to reach our customers in places people would least expect. Hence, our Holland on-the-go booths that you'll find in fuel stations, that you'll find at Melcom. Why? Because we know that people don't have time anymore. They don't want to drive through traffic to come to an insurance office to purchase their motor insurance. We also know that, people don't necessarily understand insurance. People also don't even care about insurance. We don't have that lifestyle. And in trying to create or try to enable insurance as a lifestyle for Ghanaians, we have to go to our customers. And truth be told, in the last 2 years, I think the industry has come to that realization. So everything we are doing is more customer-centric. Yes, someone used that expression. It's more customer-centric. It's more focusing on the on-demand needs of the customer. And so we have changed accordingly. So we are talking about WhatsApp insurance. We've ventured into artificial intelligence, and that's our chatbot, our very popular chatbot. And even with artificial intelligence, we've taken it a step further by, adding elements of personalization, humanization, because we know that we want people to feel, this is not just some weird thing. We are thinking about the fact that we want our customers to relate to whatever it is we are doing. And, at the height of the pandemic, our salespeople, they are the heart of the business that we do. Our salespeople were struggling because guess what? They couldn't go out. But at the same time, with that challenge came an opportunity because all of a sudden, our salespeople were everywhere online. They were infiltrating WhatsApp groups, any group they were there. They were having presentations in groups. We were sharing content. We were even doing WhatsApp stickers at some point in time. And we're taking advantage of the moment. And we're fielding questions and answering them as we're going along. And all of that comes back to that understanding that things have changed. The industry needs to get with the program. We've gotten with the program. We understand that people are now open. That's also another thing. In the past, people may not have been open, but the advantage, or shall I say, the silver lining of the pandemic has been that now we are more open-minded, generally, as a people, to engaging with companies via digital. So now people will be open to the idea of clicking and going to Jumia to purchase insurance, where we are. People will be open to the idea that they can complete a sale without physically seeing a person. And so we are taking advantage of that. And I see that the industry has really woken up to that, and that's exciting.
Let me just follow up on that, because a lot of the examples you've given have been internet-based. Have you had any challenges with getting to the people who don't have the connectivity, they don't have the internet, they don't know how to use it? How did you resolve that?
So thanks. I mentioned in passing that we have what we call the Holland on-the-go booths. So what it is that we acknowledge that not everybody is online. We are selling insurance, One City Insurance, right? Called Mebaimbo via USSD, which in and of itself is intentional because we know that not everybody has a smartphone. Now let's park that. What we are doing is we are available in places. We know people need to buy fuel. We know people will dash into Melcom because they need to purchase something. So we are physically present there. So there's that other prong of it. There's the digitization end, but there's the on-demand end. And acknowledging that the on-demand end means that you have to be present where they are. And where are they? They are at car wash, they are washing bays. Yeah. So what we also did was we decided to take a very micro focus on what we were doing with our customer targeting. So you would go to a car wash in, let's say, Asinfosu, for instance, and you see that the buckets there are all Holland branded. We were giving them buckets, we were giving them caps, we were giving them T-shirts. So even if you get there and there's no Holland salesperson, at least you leave with the awareness that Holland exists. You know, and all of this happened during the pandemic because we realized that the traditional, yes, we could be on TV, you could be on radio, but it was noisy. So how do you also differentiate? You know, how many people watch TV? I want to be there when they are washing their cars because they are thinking about the cars at that moment. You know, I want to be there when they go and buy God knows what at Melcom because that's where they are. And that's what we are taking and running with.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. We're ready to take some questions from the audience. We have some microphones in the middle. So if you have a question to any of the panelists, you can just walk to any of the microphones, introduce yourself, then ask the question and let us know to which panel member you're asking the question to. There's some microphones, standing microphones. So if you have a question, you can just walk to it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Theodore Lawson, columnist with the Financial Times. I want to ask a question that have we really changed and learned lessons of the digital platforms that we adopted during the COVID wave, actually the peak? My reason is that the traffics in the morning are still here with us. We wake up and we're all rushing back to the same offices. Even though we keep saying we've adopted, we've made changes, people are working from home, the traffics have not changed. I really want to ask the panelists if we've really learned lessons and benefits the digital platform we adopted during the COVID times and are using it properly, then all this traffic we are seeing in the morning, everybody rushing back to the same office, will not be there. Have we really, really done that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm guessing his question is to any of the panelists. He's basically asking, have we learned or have we adopted to the structures we're saying? His concern is every morning we still have the same traffic. If at all we've adjusted to digital, why are we all on the road?
The traffic is here to stay. Because even during lockdown, I know people who were driving around because they just couldn't stay at home. So I have a thought. Often I've been asked, what lessons have we learned from COVID? And to your question, I want to challenge the way we are seeing things. Can we begin to look at things more as what does the future hold? Because we really can't spend all our life looking in the rearview mirror, right? Because otherwise we're going to be looking in the past. And if COVID has taught us anything, it's the fact that the way of planning for the future by looking at the past is not always reliable. Because each and every one of you, as at January 2020, had a solid strategic plan, right? And by March, that plan was out of the window. You had to completely recalibrate. A lot of things have happened. So we see a global supply chain crisis right now. We also see things like China is trying to reduce carbon emissions, so that's why everything is expensive at the ports now, because shipping costs have gone up and all of that. And the world is changing. Now, when you talk about physical traffic in town, the question is, have our lives really, really, really changed that much? It has changed to a certain extent, but as humans, we are creatures of behavior, right? We are creatures of what we are used to. So you might not see an immediate shift in the number of people who are driving their cars, or people are still buying cars. People are still building houses. COVID didn't stop any of that, right? All that is going to carry on. It's just that things are going to change in incremental doses in some parts, and in some other parts it's going to change significantly. Now, I know traffic might be important because you want to dash somewhere and come back very quickly. But the truth is that that is not one of the areas that you're going to significantly find a different change, right? Now, you say digital, 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 but you don't see a difference. As you're going home today, I challenge you, look at every car you see, and I can assure you that there will be somebody in that car, be it a driver or a passenger, who at every opportunity they get, stop and look at this device. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. That's an insightful question. And I think that I would put that into two perspectives as well. We have a very huge informal sector. So we're talking about digitization, and somebody would ask you, what's the percentage of our lives being digitalized? So you still would buy your cassava through the old ways of doing it, and you still would buy so many others. So, of course, you probably would be in a formal sector, you're not going to work, but you're still doing the other purchases, through the traditional means. So, if you look at the percentage of formal and informal sectors, that can actually give you an explanation of why we're still having the traffic on the street. Second is indiscipline. I mean, our trotro guys, whether there are only 4 people in the trotro as the president ordered, or there are 100 people in the trotro, they still behave exactly the same way. So I think for us to really kind of align with the new idea of digitization, we need to get a lot of our commodities and access to those commodities via digital platform as well. Maybe the agro businesses, those who are into agro businesses, will think about how do I buy cassava or plantain, online sort of. And maybe we can actually solve these problems. But we have a very huge informal sector that still does not respond to digitization. Thank you.
Right. And let me just say that it's not a gloom situation as you see it. As Akuya said, it's an incremental thing. You realize that now a lot of young people are buying things online. We used not to do that. We want to go to the market, look at it, turn it, fine, is it not fine, is it okay? I mean, before you buy. But today, we call. A lot of women now will call people and say, look, I need this, and they'll send it to them. It would not be an explosion. It's going to take a process. That change is going to be a gradual thing. Because as a people, as Doc said, we're very informal. I mean, till today, how come there is a lockdown and there are stories that people are going out to see that, is it indeed that people are home or they are in the market? It's a mindset thing. So as a people, as we begin to accept it, and I believe that a lot of corporate organizations are now tightening things in terms of doing things digital. There's a lot of huge customers online doing a lot of social media stuff. So a lot of businesses are doing social media stuff now. Gradually, it's a process. We will get there. So that traffic will not stop immediately because COVID has happened. But it will get to a point that we'll begin to see changes. So yes, it's a great desire, but it will take a bit of time.
So permit me to just add to what my colleagues have said. And maybe I might push the boundary a little bit. So traffic won't change. I feel the biggest benefit that technology has brought us today is quicker decision making. Now, decision making is different from decision implementation. So it may have taken the construction company a 3-month window of back and front engaging with banks and the likes. But these days, those decisions can be made shorter. But the building of the house itself cannot be fast-tracked because of the technology per se. You still have to buy the cement and things like that. So decision-making is much more faster. The second thing that I want to say is that there are some areas that I feel technology has fast-tracked even our country. One, these days on social media, policing is being enhanced much more better. Somebody does something silly today, and the power of technology, police receives tip-offs. Twitter is guns blazing. We are firing ahead, and tomorrow the person is in cuffs. It's fast-tracking the process. It won't take police feet on ground off the ground, but it would help the police make better decisions. Number 2, governance. Governance as we have it in Ghana today is changing. It's not for nothing that the government today is organizing town hall meetings for e-levy. Because people now have a bigger voice on social media. And people can say, no, yes, I agree, I don't agree. And the reason people can conversate in that manner is because technology gives us a voice bigger than what we had 20 years ago. So the traffic is still there, but we have a much more louder voice today because of the power technology brings. Again, one of the weird debates I had with somebody was the power of the non-mainstream media. There was a time that the mainstream media would set an agenda, lead the agenda, before bloggers would follow. Today, the power of the individual brands, like Israelite, who's here, he's a powerful individual brand. To some extent, individual brands are becoming even much more bigger than institutional brands. So today, bloggers can lead a charge before even BNFT will catch up. Because a powerful brand like Israelite could tweet it first, before institutions like even Joy FM, where he works, might even chance on it. So technology is the reason why all of us here individually might even seem bigger than the institutions that we represent. So I agree with the point that traffic still exists, but there is power shift happening through technology, and that will be my submissions on this.
Thank you, Jesse. Any other question?
Bring it here. Thank you all for leading us beautifully into your organizations with how you dealt with the pandemic. So, Sophia, thank you very much for leading the conversation on seeing the employee as the first customer. So I work in human capital development, and so the role of the employee and how they are treated means a lot to me, right? Organizations thrive because of the employee. So my first question is, all of you had said we do ABCD now because of COVID for the employee. So what that means is a lot of things became an afterthought, right? Which is okay. Things happen, and then we go to the drawing board and do what we have to do. My question here is, when it comes to employee engagement, what systems, tools, processes do you have in place or are thinking about to be able to hear the voice of the employee, to be able to sort of plan ahead, again, with the voice of the employee? Because there are a lot of things, engaging a lot of organizations in my work, from the lowest level of the employee to the top, you realize that sometimes you would go into an organization and it would say, oh, let's do this ABCD training for the employees. But how much of that decision came from the voice of the employee? So again, my question is, what tools, systems, processes do we have in place to think ahead, plan ahead, to hedge running, to do things last minute, to be able to get the voice of the employee heard, the first customer? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and I just want to defend us here, because you mentioned that it seemed like it was an afterthought. So it seemed like it was an afterthought because we just ramped up what we do. It wasn't necessarily the start of what we were doing with employee engagement or protecting the mental health of our staff or considering our staff as internal advocates. At Hollard, I mentioned that we are purpose-based. So, interestingly enough, everything that we do, we actually have a set of goals that we try to achieve. And one of the goals is focused on on our people. And so even before COVID, we already had people goals that we had to achieve with respect to engagement, with respect to getting their buy-in, with respect to, how we want to present ourselves externally, who we are as Hollardites. It was part of our fabric. It was because of COVID that we decided to escalate it a bit more and ensure that we were constantly hammering. You get me? So that's just the difference. It was definitely not an afterthought. Now, one of the things we do, or a couple of the things that we do at Hollard is, and I'm sure that a number of the businesses here to do that, we have an annual employee engagement survey. So apart from that employee engagement survey, which is very vital, which you'll be surprised is tied to the performance of the business. We are an international business. So at the end of the day, we also have goals that we have to achieve as the Ghanaian business of a larger international brand. Our performance on the engagement survey really makes a difference. So when we are done with the engagement survey, it's not a matter of here are all these fantastic questions. We hope you answered them. Consider us. We want to get a great score. When we are done with our employee engagement survey, we actually have what we call unpacking sessions. So these unpacking sessions are not a giant town hall. We actually do have town halls. In fact, I have my first quarter town hall on Friday. We have town halls at different levels, yes. In this case, what we call our unpacking sessions are sit-downs, one-on-one engagements, where sometimes specific team leaders are not even part of the conversation, intentionally. Because we know that sometimes maybe this person's presence in the conversation may prevent the team from expressing honestly their viewpoints. So you can find an unpacking session with the group CEO herself and not a manager in sight. And that's intentional because we want to invite, and part of our culture, we have what we call the Holland way. It's very important for us to be very open. We have all these set structures in place that, our culture, I'm sure that you may have noticed from the way we are. We are a very vibrant brand. We are a very youthful brand. But we're also very big on things like honesty, on truthfulness. And honesty and truthfulness can be difficult in a structured corporate environment where people can't be honest up or truthful up. And so for us, we invest in ensuring that that happens by engaging with people one-on-one, even at the very micro level of the business. So it may just seem like, oh yeah, because of COVID. Yes, because of COVID, we were doing a little bit more, but we were already talking about ERPs, and a number of other engagement activities for internal stuff before it even happened. So it's just a matter of when COVID happened, now we asked ourselves, given all the changes now, what can we ramp up on? What can we maybe take a back seat on? How can we engage further? And all of that reflected in the structures that I earlier mentioned that we put in place for how we want our staff to feel and do. Because for us, once again, it's about purpose. We are a very human institution. We acknowledge human nature in the way we do our business. And we want our Hollandites to feel comfortable when they come to work because we know that they deliver when they feel comfortable.
So let me tell you this story. The executive chairman of the Jospon Group of Companies tells the story of the kind of brooms we use to sweep the streets these days. He said when we started, there was a particular broom that we were using, and then he went around one day and met a lady who said, "Oh, Chief, this broom you've given us is working, but it doesn't last. But we can do it in a different way that can make it last." He said, "Oh, really? Do it, let's see." She brought it, and that is what we are using now from a sweeper. Now, the executive chairman himself engages with janitors, drivers. That is the level we take it from, because these are the key people who have become like our frontliners. They are on the street, they are out there for us most of the times. As a group, we have, as I already mentioned, our leadership conferences. These are all part of our calendar where we engage with our teams across the group. I mean, this year, because of COVID and the changes that it has brought, we do it online, but then we make sure that people are assembled. At first, we would have brought all our managers from across the country to a particular place. Now we do it at the regional level, and the conversation is not going on just in Accra, but I was in Ho this year round, and there were janitors, drivers, joining the MDs and GMs and others to have that conversation. Now we do have, as she said, town hall meetings are like a giving, hopefully for everybody, where people are allowed to speak their minds. Where you can't speak your mind, you put it in suggestion boxes are old school, but we still do it. Because we believe that there are some of the people, if you ask a driver to do something anonymous, they might not be able to send an email or something, but not to say that some of our drivers are also degree holders, actually, I must say. Yes. But then the suggestion box makes it easier for everybody. I mean, I'm passing, I just drop it in. And whatever information the staff puts up, it's really considered. And there are meetings from that level, from the janitors level to the drivers level, not just meetings, there are training sessions for them as well. I mean, our people are trained not just on the grounds. Recently, our team was sent to another place, a military place, for the military to take them through their discipline. So there is such a deliberate, intentional way of engaging with our teams to ensure that they are also part of decision making and whatever is going on. Because at the end of the day, everything comes back to the people. And as part of our core values, people focused is one of it, and we insist on that. And team building is good, but if the person is not happy, they can't be part of a team. So that is something that we are very deliberate about. And I think that a lot of institutions are beginning to appreciate the fact that without the staff, whatever we are doing is a joke. And the joke that the staff must also appreciate that without the customer, we can't be here. So it's a cyclical thing that is going on. Once everybody appreciates what they have to do, it makes life easier for all of us. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Let me give you a sneak peek of how the university is. Like I said, I'm not a spokesperson for the university, but I'm a stakeholder, so I can talk about it. Those who sometimes resign and say they're looking for challenging places to work, try university administration. University management is absolutely challenging. Why? Because universities are managed by colleagues. You know, it's a collegiate system. So you would have a VC, all right, but it's managed by committees, you know. So you have University Management Committee that people attend and then talk about how they want the university to be run. So there's no way you're going to say that each and every decision is not being taken into consideration the internal, you know, customers, as we call it, the staff. Because we call them senior members, and even the students are called junior members. They're not customers, so to speak. So the simple and short is that the university is run by the employee, although there's a head, administrative head. It's actually run by the colleagues within the system. Thank you.
I'll say one thing very quickly. So I think that in my experience, no matter how comfortable you make people, they rarely ever tell you what they're thinking. I'm originally a strategic planner, so when you ask most mothers, why are you a great mother? The instinctive response they will give you is because I love my children, because I care about my children, right? But the reality is they don't want to be called a bad mother. And the reality is that they don't want their mother-in-law to say they are not good enough for their son. So just experience has taught me that over time, people really don't say what they're thinking. And so as an organization, we definitely have all those things in place, like having a perception survey that you do is fully anonymous. You might get the areas that you get very honest answers around salary and things like that, right? But one thing that we've done, two things that we've done that I think are making incremental difference within our business. The first thing is we've moved from appraisals to what we call career conversations. And a career conversation means, what do you need to grow? And that is all being done on the portal as against a piece of paper where you write. So you have a history of a career conversation. What goals did you set for yourself? What goals did your immediate boss set for you? How are you tracking on those goals? What support system do you need to achieve that? Do you have it? So it makes everybody in the value chain accountable. Me accountable for my people accountable for what they're saying they'll do. And I keep looking at Mrs. Kunya here, and I see a stand there, so I can't see your face properly, but forgive me. And then the second thing is speak up, right? And speak up is more for, it's an access line that it's not even run here or run on the continent, it's actually run out of the United States. And the reason we have that is, as an organization, this whole talk around diversity and inclusion has become a big deal for us, right? And I know in our parts of the world, diversity and inclusion is very different. It's really about people from different cultures, different religious backgrounds, and so on. But the thinking here is give people an outlet so that they can say what they're struggling with and what they want to see differently. And I think that you don't often get people going there, but we do get people going there from time to time. And sometimes it's just about relationships with their direct supervisors. But I think that as work cultures, one thing that's really important is when people feel you care about them and their progress and their growth, they are more likely to be open and share and tell you what you can do better as an organization and what you can do in service of their personal development. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So because of time, I'll just take 2 questions, and I'll ask that at most 2 panelists answer each. So ladies first.
Sorry. She's not a lady.
Oh, those are ladies standing there. Okay, go ahead.
So thank you for having me. And I would like to seize this opportunity to commend Dr. Akwe and team for putting this team together. I can see Akuya Marketing Communications. I can see Sophia Lisa, is this sanitation? Your areas are broad. Environmentalist, media, and all of it. So an all-purpose industry. I never knew Jesse is now in public sector marketing. And my good friend, Dr. Kobe Mensah, educational marketing. Then my sweetheart, insurance marketing. Then the moderator, media marketing. Is that not it? Print to be specific. So we have such a broad array of great minds here. Do I have your word? And if I say we, Chartered Institute of Marketing, that all the things we are hearing today will be documented such that we would have case studies, both mini case studies and maxi case studies to use in our new professional marketing qualifications. And that this will not be just a talk shop like we've had in the past. You recall Omo versus Ariel, Nunu Scent. It's a nice case study that we must have. That must be well documented, and here I'm speaking to you. We also must have Mazzi Malt and Mortina Malt. I mean, a good case study that should be written so posterity can share in it. Can we have Yampe Muna business, CMS, Custom Stout versus Guinness Extra Smooth? All of these are fantastic case studies. And as I sat and even listening to Dr. Kobe Mensah, speaks to every leg of brand practice. Every leg of brand practice. For once, it wasn't the aesthetics and the look and feel. Jesse came in with brand health and all of that. So I have your word, and I'm going back to tell the President, Governing Council, and the entire membership of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana that we are getting case studies from you. The list will be a mini case. If we get a magic case, we will say bravo. But my question is to Dr. Mensah. I came in late, but as I joined, I heard you pontificate about an insight, which is good, on FMCG, and that the FMCG played around with some P's and not some other P's. But I know I have spoken to a few people, and I hear, for example, Gasem, their highest sales was in COVID times, 3 million tons of cement. I'm told by latest foam that that is their best performing year ever. I'm told by those in the electronics industry that that was their best performing year. Is it the case that because we were at home, the men became responsible and realized that the electronics weren't working? The mattress that they were sleeping just 2 hours and 3 hours and 4 hours, they now have to sleep on it 8 hours and what have you, and more. So they realized that they needed to replace those things. I thank you very much.
Yeah. Kwabena, can I assure you that the case studies will come? Hopefully you do the follow-up and make sure that we all do the responsibility to supply them. I think that we can actually look at the market from 2 perspectives. From the public sector and then from the private sector, the individual homes. I think we saw a lot of government activities trying to shore up the economy globally. What we call, word escaped me a little bit, but most governments try to help the economy by increasing their spend and making sure that industries would survive and people would also survive. And so we had quite a lot of government intervention. So I'm sure when you speak to most of these companies, the spend actually came from the public sector. And so obviously they would experience high yields. I heard MBSSI those days during the lockdown trying to, the stimulus packages. Thank you for that word, exactly. So the government tried to give a lot of stimulus package so that institutions will survive and then people will survive. So I think that that's where you see. But from the consumption, that is individual domestic consumption, the evidence suggests, in fact, not only what we have done in Ghana, but globally, that there were a lot of cut downs. In the banking institutions, people were not withdrawing. People were being a lot more responsible with their resources because you don't know when or how long the crisis will last. We saw very few investment. People were not pushing investment. They were not pushing money into investment because they don't know how long it's going to last. The first instinct was survival. And that is what we actually witnessed during the pandemic. I mean, the height of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take both questions at the same time, and then the panelists will answer. So those are the two last questions.
Right. Good morning. My name is Michael from Ayamedinkra, and I echo the last gentleman's sentiments concerning the composition of the panel. It's excellent, and it cuts across a really broad spectrum, and well done to BNFT. My question as a technology support company or team has to do with future-proofing a lot of these things that we are talking about. Rather than acting or more or less being a reactionary brand, are we investing in some sort of social engineering, looking at the behavioral analytics that we've captured over the pandemic? One of the favorite quotes I've learned during the pandemic is, "You never waste a pandemic." Well, until the next one happens, which nobody really ever knows or predicts. How do we future-proof all these analytics, all these data we've collected, all these technologies, all these approaches? If we spend a lot more time at future-proofing our brands, then we find that we're no longer reactionary, but we're a lot more proactive, and these shocks and buffers do not affect us so much. So it would be good to see or hear the insights of the distinguished panel on this as well. Thank you very much.
Can I jump on that real quick?
Yes, but let the second question, then we can.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Edmond Awaiti. My question goes to Dr. Kobe Bensa. He was my lecturer. Doc, in your initial presentation, you said that race element was one of the factors that was identified during the COVID. With the increase on online, there are a lot of people who have ordered things, but when it was delivered, it wasn't what they ordered for in terms of those race elements. What role does trust play in online services as we are going online? I want you to explain that for me. The role of trust in when you order goods and services. Sometimes what you order is not what is brought, and actually it makes people uncomfortable. What role should trust play in online services? Educate us on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll start with the first question. Cynthia had something to say.
Okay. So speaking about future-proofing all of this fancy stuff that we've done. So I think that it comes with mindset as well. So taking from the learnings that we've had, and the question you asked about, what's the one word that I would, use for this whole pandemic? And I said insights. Learning, understanding, implementing at the end of the day after you've gone through a process of, introspection about yourself, about your target, about the people in between. If you want to future-proof your business, you want to future-proof your brand, I think it takes a level of sitting back, understanding the exigencies of the moment. predicting, or at least attempting to predict what may be the changes coming up. And then having the bravery to implement even when it's not even cool yet. Now, I might add that most people will think that our famous chatbot, Araba Hollad, was actually a thing that came out of the pandemic. What's actually interesting is we started working on it the year before. What happened with the pandemic was that when the pandemic hit, we all just said, oh wow, this needs to drop immediately. So that was the change. But here's the thing, we were considering artificial intelligence, if you think back just a year before, at a time that nobody would have thought that that was a thing. And we're willing to say, let's give it a shot and see how it works. So you can only future-proof if you leave a percentage of your time, energy on understanding what's happening now, on mining your insights, and then being willing to give things a try. So there's that trial and error, element of things. That any, and I'm sure that for all of the people seated here, at some point in time, in as much as they are in the moment, they're executing, there's a level of, what do we do next? You know, how do we stay ahead of the curve? And that's how we future-proof. We may not have been as fast with it in the past, but I can assure you that the way things are going, I mean, the next 5-10 years look really exciting. For me, it looks exciting because of things like personalization. You know, we're looking at virtual reality. You're looking at AI that we've been, you know, everybody has a chatbot now. The possibilities are endless. And now people are more open to actually engaging when we do all this. So I think we're getting there. And just to speak quickly on the case studies, you know, we put in a lot of effort into the awards submissions that we do. And a lot of times, those are case studies. So I'm just going to say that even if we don't win some of those awards, can we go back to those award submissions and pull that content with our permission and then publish it? Because trust me, we do a lot of work when it comes to the award submissions, putting together how do we do it, how did we do it, you know, what did we put out there, what were the insights, what were the learnings. I'm just saying that may be an opportunity that we haven't considered yet. Thank you.
So, Ms. Ajekum, that one, she was speaking to you, so. So like Ms. Ajekum said, I would speak from a public sector perspective. But before that, within the private sector, innovations and research seems much more easier. So I like the example that she's given, being insight-driven. If you had asked me the same question you asked her, which is one word, I probably would have said creative. If you were one of those who believed in the lab leak theories, it's the virus is a creation. Yeah. Global response came from a creation. Sanitizer expansion, businesses, creation. Empathetic marketing is a creation of the responded creatively consistently. Now, the big thing is that if you take a look at Africa's contribution to global research budget, Africa is doing about 1%. So how does Africa, or how do we on this continent take this concept of research and development more seriously, like the colleagues I have on my right and the left would do? I'm very sure that if I ask Zoom, I'm sorry, but if I'm sorry, forgive me. if I ask Zoom Lion today, what's the percentage of their budget invested in innovation and research? It probably might be more than 2% or 3% or 5%. So brands are big in terms of allocating budgets for product innovations. But African budget for research is about 1%. Even at that, I am sure if you strip off South Africa and Kenya and the big tigers, if you come to sub-Saharan Africa, it might be worse. So the first ask, in keeping true to the question that he's asking, is we need to make sure that countries, public sector, private sector, are joined at the hip in innovating ahead. Because, you see, when COVID hit, it's not a private sector disease. It's not a public sector disease. But when it started, and the private sector seemed to take a step back, governments took a step forward, it was the partnership between the private sector and governments that led to the innovations that we saw. So to his point, we don't have to wait for the next turn of the event. But how do we start talking today? In Ghana, I'm not sure where innovations is sitting, whether it's sitting with which ministry even owns innovations. I can't. Science, technology, and yes. So you see, so it has to be at the forefront of what we're doing. CSIR, all of them. And how do we ensure that the budgets allocated for creating possible solutions for possible problems are increased? Our scientists must be put to the test. So from a public sector perspective, my only hope and ask would be that we would begin to take that portion seriously and invest ahead of the curve, as the private sector does same. That would be my add to it.
I'll say something very quickly in response to that. Doctor, I know you have a question to respond to. Michael, it's nice to actually see you. I've spoken to you a few times. I've never actually met you. Growth mindsets. So a lot of the time, we have a very fixed mindset. If you're asked to do something, no, it's not possible. This won't work. Oh, this is how we've always done it. We are not solution-oriented. We're not looking about ways around things. And I think that as a culture, from a company, organizational culture perspective, I think one thing we need to start building is a growth mindset, which is looking at solutions, which is looking at different ways of doing things, which is constantly curious and learning, right? And I think that that's the foundation. So I agree with Jesse and everybody else completely about making the investments into research, taking that data and exploring it and so on. But if your mind doesn't tell you that this is possible, you won't start it, right? So just food for thought. Maybe if there's anyone wants to learn anything out of this, maybe do a bit of research, all of us, around growth mindsets and how it actually pushes us forward and allows us to develop and to grow. And I think that will definitely be worth it for each of our personal development. Thank you.
Right. I think that the first question about being future-proof, I will give an example of the Spanish flu, for example. I mean, people talk about we've been there before. I believe it's always not about the systems, i.e. the hardware systems that you have, or whether you have the medicine, to take care of that. But I think it's about the know-how. And if you listen to the scientists who are working on the vaccines for the pandemic, they tell you the turnaround time in developing it had been a lot more faster. And that tells you that you cannot be future-proof with hardware. You couldn't say you've built a system that would take care of the next pandemic because you don't know how the next pandemic would look like. So I think the advice is rather about the know-how, the processes. And that's why policies are very crucial for organizations to develop the policies that could actually respond to pandemics when they happen. For example, how did we come to know that social distance, for example, would be effective? Because we've learned from the past. So we cannot build a future-proof machinery or, solutions per se, but we could learn from the know-how, the experiences, and the quick decision that, Jesse talked about. So I think these are some of the things that institutions have to document, for future. Now, the question about trust, it's a big one. In fact, over the weekend, myself and my student, it was a topic we were discussing, relationship marketing, and asking how do institutions earn trust, from, customers? Is it about commitment first, or is it about the trust is first? And a very nice example was that if you meet a lady, and sorry I'm using that because that's the norm. If you meet a lady first, oh, I think I want to know you more. Can you give me your number? What would actually make the lady give you the number? Is it because they trust you or because you've committed to asking? And so it's always twofold. Trust can come in a very minimal level. So the lady takes a good glance at you and you're in a very responsible, not like my beard, which is going to say, who's this unkempt guy? But a very nice looking. So at that base level, there's a trust there. But then what you use the number for, do you check up, do you respond adequately, etc.? Then there's a commitment to say, I think I can trust this guy the more. So the trust expands or increases, and then, of course, the relationship kickstart. I suppose that's the theory, at least. You know, so I think that in the crisis time, and I was actually giving an example how companies have performed and people have responded. I don't think we believed in online, you know, to a very large extent until the crisis hit. And then I said, when crisis hit, people are already motivated. Why? Because if you read the social impact theory, it tells you that immediacy and the idea that a group of people are doing it, you think that it works. That's why a lot of people are doing it. So bandwagon, those of you who do journalism, make people invariably develop trust in the system until they're disappointed with the goods. So companies automatically end trust because there's a crisis. So that's the base level of trust. So people will use it, but then make sure that you build on it by delivering what is right or what was expected, because the system had already given you a base level of trust that you have to build on. All right, going forward. Thank you. But it's crucial.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was really, really long, but insightful. Thank you, Baba, for the opportunity. Just 20 seconds, each of the panelists, your final words. How would you challenge, advise the people in the room, those online, on how to get results as we are still in the pandemic era? 20 seconds each. Maybe we can start with Equia and come down this way.
Look forward. Don't spend time looking in the rearview mirror. That'll be it.
All right, I want to just say a few words that you can just put together. I'm looking at words like business continuity plans. Marketing is not alien to crisis and pandemics, but this one caught us by surprise. So we must have our plans in place. Sustainability is a buzzword now. Corporate social responsibility, a buzzword. Experiential marketing based on authenticity, trust. Being intentional about whatever you're doing. Speed is selling. And innovation. Forget about brick and mortar. Where we are going to, we might not need it. And authenticity, it's a key word. Let's challenge the status quo. Why not?
So my first point will be a copy from Dr. Mensah. If state institutions see citizens as consumers, we would work towards satisfying their consumer needs. So my first put on the table is to begin to see people as consumers than citizens. The second one is that a brand is a promise fulfilled. So if you're a brand and you make a commitment and you fulfill that commitment, you earn trust. So if you get a chance to fulfill a commitment, do it. And that's how you entrench your brand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse, for the kind words. Yes, our companies must be courageous. They must be bold, to take the right decisions. Of course, the decision may not be right at the beginning, but at least you've taken the initiative, and then you can actually build on it. So please, let us be courageous to take the actions necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, haven't my senior said everything? Okay, so I would say that from an execution perspective, don't get comfortable. It's very easy to think that you're killing it, if I should use very regular language. It's very easy to think that you're killing it, you're doing what you can, you're making waves. But don't get comfortable, because that's how complacency happens. And with complacency comes stagnation. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. My word will be collaboration. There are so many opportunities for all of us to collaborate on different ways to do things. So thank you to my panelists. Let's do this again.
Thank you so much, Emma. A round of applause for the panelists, please. They were made up of Ekwa Owusu Nate from Ogilvy Africa, Sofa Kojoji from Jospon Group of Companies, Jesse Ahmad Ajapong from Ghana Free Zones, Cynthia Ofori Jimo from Holland, Ghana, and Emma Wenani, who was the moderator from Global Media Alliance. Please, let's take a group photo. Please don't go. Let's take a group photo first. While for them to take the group photo, I hope that Abdullah Yusuf is on standby. Let me take the opportunity to also acknowledge our sponsors, Zoom Lion, Ghana Free Zones Authority, Goyle, and Hollard. Thank you so much. And to our media partners, we have Global Media Alliance, we have City FM, ETV Ghana, Happy FM, YFM, Asase Radio, City TV, and Echo House. Thank you so much for sponsoring this event.
Hello. Okay. Mr.